The menorah is ready. All of the golden pieces are ready. The third temple is ready.
The menorah is ready. All of the golden pieces are ready. The third temple is ready. On August 3rd, 2025, the world watched as Israel's national security minister stepped onto one of the most volatile sites on earth, the Temple Mount, and did something that hadn't been done by a high-ranking official in years. He prayed, not in secret, not as a bystander, but boldly in the open during Teshab, the Jewish day of mourning for the destruction of the first and second temples. Within hours, headlines exploded. Condemnations poured in from Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and the Palestinian Authority. Muslim leaders called it a provocation. Others saw it as political theater. But those watching through the lens of Bible prophecy saw something else. Because while the cameras followed political outrage, something far more prophetic was stirring in the background. For the first time in nearly 2,000 years, Israel has a high priest who was trained, prepared, and ready. Not just in theory, but in practice. Quietly chosen, carefully prepared, waiting in the shadows for one single moment, the return of the temple. The Temple Institute, based in Jerusalem, has already completed the golden vessels, the table of showbread, the incense altar, and priestly garments. But all of that was incomplete without the man. Now the man is ready. And while his name is being kept secret, his presence is no longer a mystery. Because when the high priest stands ready and when Temple Mount tensions rise, we're not just watching politics. We're watching prophecy. And what happens next could unlock Daniel's 2,500-year-old warning, the beginning of something the world isn't prepared for. Long before modern Jerusalem, before politics, before borders, before Israel became a nation again, there was a man named Daniel. Taken captive from Judah into Babylon, he was a prophet in exile. And through him, God revealed a mystery, a timeline. In Daniel 9:27, he spoke of a final week of years, 7 years that would reshape history. He described a moment when sacrifices in the temple would begin again, only to be suddenly stopped. And in the middle of that week, he warned of an event so dark, so terrifying, that Jesus himself later repeated it. Daniel wrote, in the middle of the 7, he will put an end to sacrifice and offering, and at the temple, he will set up an abomination that causes desolation. But to fulfill this prophecy, 3 things must happen. The temple must exist. Sacrifices must return. A high priest must be in place. For nearly 2,000 years, none of these were possible. There was no temple, no priesthood, no holy rituals, only ruins and memory. But in our time, all 3 are returning, which means the timeline Daniel saw, that final prophetic countdown, may already be on the edge of activation. And if it is, the clock isn't just ticking for Jerusalem, it's ticking for the whole world. Tucked inside the old city of Jerusalem, down a narrow stone alley, sits a quiet place with world-shaking potential. It's called the Temple Institute. For decades, their craftsmen and scholars have labored to recreate every item needed for the third temple, down to the smallest gold utensils. And now it's done. The table of showbread, built to ancient biblical measurements, the incense altar, restored from pure gold, the silver trumpets, the Levitical garments, and even the 7-branch golden menorah valued at millions all sit waiting in secure vaults. This isn't a model. It isn't a prophecy simulation. These are real, usable items designed for real sacrifices in a real temple. But there's more. They've even created a replica of the Ark of the Covenant's outer shell, not to replace the original, but to be ready for its return. Because those behind the Temple Institute don't believe these are just museum pieces. They believe the temple will be rebuilt in our generation. But for everything they've prepared, one vital piece was missing until now. Because a temple is not complete without a priest, and it's powerless without a high priest. And in silence, without headlines, no press conference, no media spotlight. But according to sources close to the Temple Institute, The first high priest in modern history is now fully trained. He's a descendant of Aaron from the tribe of Levi, just as required in the Torah. He's undergone ritual purification,
studied the ancient sacrifices, and rehearsed the Day of Atonement procedures, the holiest duties ever carried out in Israel. And he's not alone. The Temple Institute has also trained dozens of Levitical priests, all real men with verified genealogies. These aren't actors or spiritual performers. They're priests ready to resume the work, stopped in 70 AD when the Romans burned the temple to the ground. But why the secrecy? Because if his identity were revealed, it would likely cause international backlash, political chaos, and religious riots. Still, he stands ready. And this changes everything, because now, for the first time since the destruction of the Second Temple, the infrastructure of sacrifice is not just an idea, it's operational. All that remains is one final step, and it's the most mysterious of them all. You can't rebuild the temple rituals without cleansing the priests, and you can't cleanse the priests without the red heifer. According to Numbers 19, a perfect, unblemished red heifer must be sacrificed, and its ashes used to purify both the priesthood and the temple site from defilement. This ritual is so precise that if the heifer has even 2 non-red hairs, it's disqualified. For centuries, there were none. The ritual couldn't continue. But recently, something changed. Multiple red heifers have been born. Some came from Texas, flown into Israel under strict observation. They're now being carefully raised near Jerusalem, watched daily by rabbis and veterinarians. As of now, at least 2 remain qualified. Once they reach the age of 2 to 3 years and stay pure, they can be sacrificed. That means the final cleansing could take place soon. It's no longer a dream, it's a countdown. And when that moment comes, the high priest will no longer just be ready, he will be released. If there's one place on earth where history and prophecy collide, it's here, the Temple Mount. To Jews, it's the holiest site in the world, the location of Solomon's and Herod's temples. To Muslims, it's home to the Al-Aqsa Mosque and Dome of the Rock, the 3rd holiest site in Islam. And right now, it's a powder keg. On August 3, 2025, Itamar Ben-Gvir, Israel's national security minister, walked onto the mount and prayed. His action violated a fragile arrangement, one that bars Jews from praying at the site. The response? Fury. Leaders across the Middle East condemn the move as an act of war. But to watchers of prophecy, it wasn't just a political gesture, it was a signal. Because when the tension on the Temple Mount rises, the path to rebuilding the temple gets closer. And the more political voices clash, the more prophetic voices rise. Soon something will break, and when it does, it won't just shake the mount, it will shake the world. Daniel's prophecy points to a 7-year period unlike anything the world has ever seen. It begins with a covenant confirmed with many, possibly a peace or security agreement in the Middle East. Midway, the sacrifices are stopped, and then the abomination of desolation appears. Jesus warned us, when you see the abomination standing in the holy place, let the reader understand. This can't happen without a temple. It can't happen without sacrifices. It can't happen without a priesthood. And now all 3 are almost in place. So the question presses harder. Has the final week already started, or are we just moments away? Either way, the world is closer than ever to Daniel's final countdown. Before he was crucified, Jesus stood on the Mount of Olives and spoke of the end. He described earthquakes, wars, deception, but then he gave a specific sign. When you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel standing in the holy place, he wasn't talking about the past. He was pointing forward to our time, to a rebuilt temple, to resume sacrifices, to a moment when the Antichrist will rise and desecrate what is holy. And Jesus didn't just say it would happen. He told us how to live when it does. Watch. Be ready. Let no one deceive you, because prophecy isn't about fear, it's about faith. And now, as the world spins faster towards its appointed future, those who are watching can see what others miss. The stage isn't being set. The curtains are already opening. With all this talk of priests and temples, let's not forget the most important truth. Jesus is our great high priest. Hebrews 4:14 says, "Since we have a great high priest who has ascended into heaven, Jesus, the Son of God, let us hold firmly to the faith we profess. No earthly temple, no ritual sacrifice, no golden menorah can save a soul. Only Jesus can." But here's the paradox. These earthly signs, the high priest, the red heifer, the temple preparations, are all part of God's final warning system. They're reminders that time is short, that Jesus is returning, that prophecy is not sleeping. And now those who are watching can see what others miss. The stage isn't being set. The curtains are already opening.
Everything is nearly ready. The temple vessels, the priesthood, the high priest, the red heifer, the global tension. And now there's only one piece left to fall into place. Just one move. A signature on a treaty. A red heifer declared eligible. A temporary structure on the Temple Mount. We don't know which one it'll be, but we do know this. When it happens, it won't be quiet. It will be loud, visible, dividing. It will mark the moment where prophecy moves from preparation to execution. And when that final move is made, the world will never be the same.